Hello, hello. Would you like to see something neat? I thought you would. Keep your eyes glued to the screen. It'll happen in the next 20 seconds or so. As for the incoherent rant, I might as well get started now. So for me, it's been a little while. Not too long, but I almost forgot to make you content. Not really, but I just had life happen a little bit, but we're back to it, and we're making that sweet, delicious content. Did you see that? Run it back, watch it again. Watch it 5 more times for me, if you would. I did a hard swap to a shield, and I parried a giant hunt on a twin sword. I was actually switching the shield because I thought a twin blade would be easy to parry, but he used an easy to parry Ash of War, and our connection was good enough. It worked out. On screen is the Flamehand Moira build, my flame specialist, my faith pure, for lack of a better term. Not an incantation pure, don't you get those mixed up. I still have a couple weapons on the build. I do like straight swords. I have a couple shamshears. I leveled up one more time since last time because I wanted the extra dex point to be able to wield the shamshear. And otherwise, the build's not that too different. I messed with the inventory a little bit, and I like this setup a whole lot more than my last one. And it worked out for the most part. I had a good time. I feel like I say that at the start of every video, and, well, if I'm not having a good time, then I'm doing something wrong. I should be playing a better build. And honestly, if I had a miserable time, I probably wouldn't make a video about it. So, I filter it, just for you. I will say something I noticed during the course of these invasions. I don't think I know what the level brackets are anymore. I know I've harped about them in previous videos, but I think they've shifted a little bit as the game has grown somewhat. I used to think that, like, if you're rune level 30 to 40-ish, you'd have a +7 standard, maybe a +3 somber about. It feels fair. And then if you're around rune level 60, you probably have a +10 standard and a +4 somber. That seems about fair. Maybe a +12 standard and a +5 somber. Around rune level 80, I used to think it was about a +15 standard or a 6 somber, and that's what I have on this character. And though it wasn't dead, there were certainly dry spells, for lack of a better term. It was harder to find invasions. I did find them though. I have a video for you after all, and I don't know if +17 would be better or if level 80 is just a bad bracket now, or maybe I just had a bad day. I don't know. I have to generally play the game earlier in the day than I would like to because I have an early work schedule, and so I don't get to play too much after 8 p.m. honestly. That's a me issue. That's not a you issue. But maybe +17 weapons would be better. Maybe I need to shift brackets entirely. I kind of like playing a mid-level Pyromancer though, because I feel like Giant's Flame Take Thee is really strong, and it can be a crutch for the build. Very much so, especially if you want to have fun pyrokinetic sword combos, you know, hitting people with an O flame or a catch flame, or, you know, using your flaming strike, your other cool flame abilities, not just the big chunky fireball, which, don't get me wrong, I love the big chunky fireball. But I'd like a little variety every now and then if I can handle it. And so level 80, it's like, it does good damage, the big chunky fireball, but it doesn't always delete your enemies in one shot. It 80%s them. It's just barely a difference, but it's enough that people who are slippery can get away and, you know, make for some fun footage on screen. So I need to figure out what the heck the level 80 bracket is. My other level 80 character, my little spell sword character, they have +17 equipment and the somber equivalent, which is +7, I think. So we'll see. I have plans to play them soon, so I will report back what I think of the bracket. I could have just had a bad day. But to continue with the brackets, rune level 125, you usually have maxed out gear. Essentially, you are in that final upgrade bracket, you might as well max out the weapons you like and have the stones for. And everything, of course, beyond rune level 125 is also maxed out equipment, if that wasn't clear. Apparently, some people are playing at rune level 90 with +20 standard and +8 somber. And that's a little beyond me. I feel bad for people who don't care about the stats and the numbers that I'm just rambling on about, but hey, I want to know where the activity's at, And I found that when I play with people earlier in the day, midday for me, right? Because I get off work earlier, because I get there very early in the morning. I'm able to play in the early afternoons. I tend to run into people from different time zones for myself, and as a consequence, 150 ping seems standard for those people. And it's very seldom I find people with under 100 ping until later in the evening. Once people are getting off work, understandably, that's when I run into those people who live in North America close enough to me, and we have like a 70 ping or lower connection, and it feels good. I only get to play with those people for like an hour before I need to go off to bed, but neither here nor there. I'll figure it out, and we'll get there at some point, but it means that as the game is aged, new brackets may arise. 90 might be the new mid-game. Or maybe it'll just be the bracket right before the end game or whatever. That's what it feels like to me. I want more brackets. I'm fine with it. Doesn't bother me none at all. And so I'm excited. I will probably do a level 90 build and see how that works. And I kind of want to try some in-between places. Maybe like a level 70 build. I don't know. We'll see how that works out for me. I just know that during level 60 jaunts... it feels like the time to kill is really long, and I could just be bad. Always hold that in reserve, that I could just be bad. But level 60 feels like everyone's really beefy, and it also means that the phantoms... beefy in terms of health, because you do awful damage. It also feels like their friendly, over-leveled phantoms are scarier than ever than when you're level 60, with your plus 10 or 12 standard weapons. So stay tuned to the channel, because I plan to have some odd new builds coming up. Maybe not too odd, but I hope to try out a few more ideas. I've been doing a little bit of light theory crafting for some builds I have coming up. I want to do them at atypical brackets, and we'll see how it goes. Try to do things that are a little less standard. I'm having fun with the weird stuff, the wild stuff, the stuff you don't see coming. And don't get me wrong, using the meta stuff is also fun, because, I mean, it feels good to perform well. And I felt it with a build like this. This build is good. It's not superb, but I had a lot of fun, and I think it's worthwhile. Mostly because if you can catch people off kilter, the big old Giant's Flame can win the fight for you very easily. And I just need to get better at the spacing, using the straight sword. Timing the O-Flame seems like a big thing. When I can land the sucker, it chunks. But it's just landing it, and catch flame is something I also need to work on. I feel like other people make it look so effortless to run and hit people with the catch flame. I'm probably just too terribly predictable. But hey, good fights nonetheless. I have some longer clips for you as well, so that maybe you can get a little invested in what's going on screen as I try to overcome the odds, the average player versus superior numbers, and things of that sort. Here's a tangent for you. I've been playing Chrono Trigger. You know, that really old game? Really old, I say. I missed it by a little bit. I feel like the console for my generation when I was young was the N64. That was the console of choice. Never had a Nintendo or Super Nintendo or anything like that. So, going back in time and playing Chrono Trigger, that game's full of love. That game is very neat. I have been having a blast with it. I thought it was going to be like the million-hour JRPG for some reason, just because it feels like it would fit the bill. And the game, if you're paying attention, is fairly linear. It has open world, air quotes, segments, but there's not too much side stuff you can get caught up on. Even at my point in the game, and I'm at like the 65% mark, I'd say. But it's a blast. Go play it, and play it with the expectation that it's going to be slower paced. I've been playing it on a Steam Deck, actually, when I have downtime at other places. Or just when I want to relax somewhere else and not be at my PC setup. And it's been a grand old little game for that. Very, lots of places to stop. It's the ideal portable game for someone like me, and I've been having a good old time with that. And it's been a mental adjustment of sorts. Oh, watch this. This is important. Oh, that poor guy. Oh, gravity. Gravity builds are the strongest. And I love how his friend gets so sad and dejected just to join him. Oh, that's important. That was important to sidestep and my whole train of thought for. But yeah, I've been playing Chrono Trigger. I've been replaying Fallout New Vegas. Some of these, I don't know, they're kind of older RPGs-ish. There's definitely several generations between the two. And I had to adjust my mindset on those games. I had to play them with the understanding that they were RPGs first and foremost, and not get too hung up on, oh, I want character action, or I want a shooter with loot elements, or whatever, looting elements, in case I didn't enunciate that clearly. And because, well, I'll be honest, Fallout New Vegas is not a prime shooter game, right? The shooting doesn't feel fantastic. It's good enough. It's sufficient. But when you play it as an RPG and enjoy the dialogue and get immersed in the world, that's where it excels. And that's, of course, where Chrono Trigger excels, is enjoying the simple but good characterization. And it feels like a lot of modern games have kind of lost that spark, that joy, when it wasn't so, I don't know, corporatized? I don't have the term for it. I'm not an expert on the subject by any means, but it feels like a lot of games and movies and media in general is just corporate this, corporate that. How do we get people to play the game as much as possible? How do we get them to spend as much money on the thing as possible? How do we cut the budget as much as possible and deliver as little as possible? Or get people to spend as much time in the subject matter, and to always come back. You know, people have their MMOs that encourage daily logins, because you have to send your followers to go do silly things for items or whatever the heck is going on. Things that don't appeal to me, but a lot of people get really stuck on when it comes to these. I don't know what term to call it. I could call it predatory, I guess, or just dishonest. That's the term. We use the term dishonest here in the Souls community. At least a few people in the community do, to refer to things that are just feel a little shady in some capacity. It's maybe slightly unfair, but at least a perceived injustice. I'll say that. Dishonest gaming. Or dishonest game development. And so it feels nice to play some older games like Fallout New Vegas, like Chrono Trigger, or to play a game like Elden Ring or Armored Core 6, where it feels like an honest-to-goodness video game that wants to please, but it doesn't necessarily pander. Like, it wants to put its best foot forward and show you what it is genuinely, and love it or hate it, it does a good job at trying to be what it is. It's also kind of charming with Chrono Trigger to see Toriyama, the guy who drew Dragon Ball, or at least was the reason it was conceived in some capacity. I don't know the lore or history. I just know Toriyama at one point in time drew Dragon Ball and has had a lot to do with the series since. And so it's his art style that people will credit to Chrono Trigger and, of course, Dragon Ball Z. And his earlier stuff is really neat, actually, if you haven't taken a look at it. His earlier vehicle drawings and his concept art for things, it's cute. I like it. It's you can see what was adapted and eventually became Dragon Ball at one point, of course. You know, he draws in a very particular way. It's very easy to see, but I don't know. I like it. And I'm a fan. I'm an adolescent fan of the franchise of Chrono Trigger or whatever. The entity. I heard Chrono Cross is not nearly as good, which feels bad, but that's fine. I don't need it to be an ongoing series forever. And that could just be hearsay. Maybe it's a fantastic game by today's standards. But here's a request I have for you, dear viewer, if you happen to have the answers. What are the level brackets? I could, of course, Google it and absolutely neuter our interaction that we have on this silly website where you watch my videos and I enjoy having your presence. But where do you think the brackets are? Where do you see the most activity? That'd be neat to see. What level do you think there's really high activity? What upgrade level of weapons should you have? And are there any non-standard brackets that you think I should get into while we are watching me painstakingly trying to learn how to use the Shamshir and space pyromancies and be kind of abysmal at it. Not my proudest moment, but learning experience, so I kept it. Kind of the raw experience of learning the game. And goodness, is there a lot to learn. And my goodness, do you get to put up with every second of not every second, the seconds I thought were worthwhile. It's this interesting mixed bag where I don't know what to expect from an audience perspective as well as myself. I see an invasion like this and I go, oh my goodness, I had to fight bitterly to overcome 2 people. I really had to pull out some tricks and stall and just find an opening, and it takes a while. And some people like that. They like seeing the struggle. They like to see something overcome, something conquered. And I understand that. I understand it more in a PvE sense, I suppose. I feel like if a fight goes on forever in PvP, it just kind of feels off, feels a little odd. And maybe it's because I've been watching too many high-end PvPers who make content, and they're just able to clean up their fights so well. And of course, the fights they show you are just wonderful, and it feels like they are these powerful demigods among men, able to, you know, clack them analog sticks back and forth and make people cry and bow at their feet and grovel and tear up and refinance their home in anguish or whatever's going on. And so it's kind of interesting to, you know, what the audience would like to see. What do you boys and girls out there, I assume, what would you like to see? Do you like the long fights? Do you want to see the highlights? I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter too much what you say, unfortunately, because I'm just going to do my own thing. It's just self-defeating. Wholly and completely self-defeating. But no, really, a comment here or there would be nice. It's nice to see. See what people have in their head cases. I can understand, and it will take a little more mulling over, that the longer fights aren't bad. As long as they're action-packed and there is a back and forth, I think that's probably the best part, so you can kind of hope and see what's going to happen. And you can see me make poor decisions like waiting for this guy to deal with the hand before I go in, when he would have been a lot easier to pick off had I just run in there. But I decided I wanted to fight this guy with the Shamshir, doggone it. I wanted to catch him with an O-Flame if he got too aggressive, darn it. I wanted to learn and fight, doggone it, because I don't think there's people in the arena at level 80. And I should probably practice with the Shamshir at a meta level so I have a concept of, in my head, of, you know, what the spacing ought to be and when I can stun and when I should back off. I am making more hits on this guy than I thought. Maybe this fight wasn't as drawn out as I had remembered it. Sometimes I see this footage for the second time while I'm putting it together. I rate the clips as I capture them. And I have a rating system to help me know what I should keep and what I ought to show, and which ones were bland nothings, and which ones are exciting, and which ones are you have to see, like knocking people off a cliff with a fireball, or that sick parry in the beginning. I give those a maximum rating or whatever, where it's like, that's making it in the video one way or another. That's worthwhile. That's fun. That's what people want to see. And so sometimes these videos end up with a bunch of 40-second clips, because to me, I'm like, oh, those are the high-octane ones. That's what people want. But no. Some of you out there, the weirdos, the crazies, the lovable ones, you want the long, drawn-out fights, and you want to see me overcome the odds against people who are very much in my skill bracket. It's a lot of people. I don't know where I am on the bell curve, but I feel like I'm on one of the big, steep slopes in the middle. Whether I'm at just below or just above, I couldn't tell you. Definitely not in them top percentiles, no sir. The top percentile was never meant for one such as me. Still, my goodness, just trying to hit this poor guy. I will say this, though. At those lower brackets, 60, 80, 40 even, 50, who cares? There's always those people who neglect to level their health. This guy probably has 1,000 HP. I don't even know what the vigor is for that. My goodness. I know the vigor pool starts at 1,400 as far as I'm concerned, because that means you hit 40-ish. It's like 1,450 health is 40 vigor. I can be wrong, but it's somewhere around there. And so whenever I see people who don't have at least 40 vigor by level 80, and statistically these people are a higher level than I am, I guess I could do the math. Doesn't matter. But here we are doing some honest Fire's Deadly Sin, because it's a neat little cleanup tool. I've had too many instances where I couldn't get people just dead enough. Just barely not dead enough. And so We get the backstab. He's almost dead. I just need to run at him. And for some reason, I only get like a single tick of the silly Fire's Deadly Sin, and we knock him out of the park, and that's your long, drawn-out victory. Thanks for joining me today. It was fun. I like having you. Stay tuned for more, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.